Yo, what's up? And welcome inside the opening line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Corey and Benny, the fantasy exec, my main man, Benny Ricciardi. Boy, I tell you what, Benny, we got a lot to get into today because I've had a hell of a night. First and foremost, it is a high holy day in sports. It is draft day 2019. Basically, this is the day that we bang the gavel on the NFL season. And obviously, in this industry, everything we do, everything is secondary to the NFL. So we'll get into some draft stuff a little bit later on. But I tell you what, Benny, you know, we have these backdrops that we have to hang the Guru Elite Fantasy backdrops.
Yep.
You basically need a PhD to put this thing together. You know what I'm saying?
I think you need more than a PhD. You need a PhD, and you have to hire a contracting firm, to be honest.
Yes, exactly. And I just was actually funny you mentioned that. I was actually talking to a dude just now, and he was like, yo, I'll come over there a little bit later on. So, you know, the stanchions are dumb big. I live in a studio apartment. You know what I'm saying? Which it's the same price as a mortgage, but it is what it is inside Harlem, New York right now. That's a part of it. You know what I mean, Benny? So, obviously, I get the stanchion up because we got the draft show tonight. Talk about that a little bit later on. And, of course, as soon as I sit down and hit record to start to get the program together, this shit falls on top of my head. So now I'm angry and disgusted, and I take all the shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll worry about that later. Let me go ahead and get everything started, right? So I hollered at you, told you what was going on. Then I go to set up the recording and get the live stream together, and my mouse is not moving around because I don't have no batteries. So I'm like, all right, I holler at Benny. I said, let me run to the store right quick and get some batteries. This is Harlem. It's a bodega on every corner. Matter of fact, it's two on every corner. You know what I'm saying? I get to the bodega. The first thing I do is I say, yo, give me the batteries. You know what I'm saying? 2 AA batteries. He gives me the AA batteries. I reach in my pocket. I don't have no money.
That is one of those days, man. I've been there. I've done that before. That's tough.
So I run back to the crib. I go in my pants pocket, and I'm like, I'm checking my pants. I'm like, I don't have no cash at all. You know what I'm saying? So I grab my card, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't swipe for $1 batteries. So I had to buy 5 packs of AA batteries this morning. You know what I'm saying? So I got enough batteries to last.
Okay.
Benny, I get back to the house. My keys are locked inside.
I was wondering what was taking you so long. All right, that makes sense.
So my keys are locked inside. Now I got to call the landlord. The landlord who's already been over here with the trash and dealing with stuff in the building this morning. He's like, you just caught me. I'm getting ready to run to Harlem Hospital. So he runs back here. He opens the door for me, and he lets me in the building. But one of the funny, too, I made it, thankfully. You know what I'm saying? Prayerfully, I made it. But what I did find something interesting. The second time I went to get the batteries, I go in the store, and it's a girl in there. You know what I'm saying? Good-looking, woman, whatever. Look like she's getting ready to go to work or whatever. So she goes to put her items on the counter, and I noticed that she got a steel reserve. And I'm like, looking at the steel. I'm like, first of all, why are you drinking a steel reserve? Number one. Number two, why are you drinking a steel reserve at 9 a.m.? So she peeped that I'm looking at the steel reserve, and she goes, I'm drinking this to, I had too much last night. So I'm drinking to take the edge off. And I'm like, you drinking a steel reserve to take the edge off?
That's when I go and I say, yo, can I borrow a pen? And you write your number down, and you be like, we need to talk later.
Yo, Benny, my first instinct, when she told me she was drinking that steel reserve to knock the edge off, I immediately looked at her ass and was like,
no shame in your game, bro. That's there's certain signs that don't come along often in life, but when they come around, you can't miss them, man. Like they're big. Like, God is trying to tell you something right now.
No doubt about it. And God was like, so anyway, I let her go off to work. I'm quite sure throughout the course of the summer, I'll run into her again. It's been nice the past couple of days in this area. So obviously when it gets nice, everybody's outside. And I love the entrepreneurs in my neighborhood. It was legit on 7th Avenue yesterday. It was legit a dude out there on the street with a grill with a ton of hamburger meat selling hamburgers right there on the street for $3. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? That's not bad. That's not bad. You're walking, especially around that neighborhood. You're walking around all the time. It's nice outside. You get hungry. I mean, That's not a bad idea. You gotta like the entrepreneurs, man. That's the way this country used to be. You just throw your stuff down, you make some money, you take your chances, and see what happens.
So, right next to him is another guy. He legit is out there with a pail, a bucket, and a couple of gallons of water, and he's washing cars. And I'm like, well, look at this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a little bit later on, I come around, I'm doing my thing, Benny. I hit the corner, and I see the cops is out there. Do you know the cops made the dude stop cooking the hamburgers and made the guy stop washing the cars?
Oh, absolutely. Because you need, especially in New York City, you need a permit. You need a permit to do everything in New York City. You can't do anything without it.
You can't just set up shop. But I was like, come on, son, you're killing the entrepreneurs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember this last year, but there was a guy, like a hot dog cart guy, who basically called the cops on a little kid who was like selling a lemonade stand on the corner because it was taking money away from him, doing all that. And, so it's a messed up world we live in right now, man. It's kind of crazy.
You're right. There was that situation also last year. I believe it was in San Francisco or something like that, where a lady called the cops on a little girl that was selling water. And the little girl's mother was like, why did you call the cops on it's a 9-year-old girl selling water? Yeah. And the lady was like, she was saying water, water, water too loud and it woke me up. So
there's a lot of people in this world, man, that just
miserable.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just want to drag everybody else down into the gutter with them right now. So I don't know, man.
Miserable. So we got a lot to get into today. We get to the sports stuff in a minute, but obviously we'll go on Twitter before the show starts and kind of get into some of the things that's going on. Obviously, number one trending story is Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe Biden has entered the race for the 2020 presidency. So we do have some updated odds. You know what I'm saying, Benny? Now, obviously, the favorite at plus 130 is the dude in the White House. I don't want y'all tweeting at me all crazy. So I'm just gonna move past. You know what I'm saying? So the current president is at plus 130. Right off the rip, Uncle Joe, Benny, comes in at plus 160. He is now the favorite on the Democratic side.
That's such a good bet, too. It's such a good bet. So when I went to University of Delaware. That's where I went to college, right? So Biden being a Delaware guy, he actually gave the keynote speech the year I graduated, all right? So I remember some of it. The night before, I was like that lady. I needed a steel reserve the morning of graduation. The night before was a little bit crazy. But, I listened to the guy speak. I always thought he was a really good public speaker. Always liked Joe Biden. Here's why plus 160 on Joe Biden is a good thing. Joe Biden will have a harder time winning the Democratic nomination than he will winning a national election. Because there is no effing way that Joe Biden loses Pennsylvania. Joe Biden's from Scranton. Yeah. Joe Biden is as big in Pennsylvania as I don't know who. I don't even know who it is. I mean, he's the Allen Iverson of Pennsylvania politics, basically. It's like nobody in Pennsylvania is going to say a bad word for him. So if you look at the last election, if you flip Pennsylvania, then we have a Democratic president instead of a Republican president. And that's why Trump is so scared of Joe Biden, because he knows he can't beat Biden in Pennsylvania. Not that I think he's going to win Pennsylvania anyway, because I think the people over there finally smartened up and realized they were being morons by voting for him last time. So Joe Biden at plus 160, that's pretty good odds. The harder part for him, like I said, is going to be being the one to emerge from the 20-something Democrats that are running for office. And I got to be honest, man, the more I listen to some of these people, people look at me and people think that I'm a Democrat because I hate Trump. I've been a registered Republican my entire life.
Really?
Yeah, my entire life. I'm socially liberal. I believe that gay people should have rights. I believe that, I believe marijuana should be legal. Socially, I'm as liberal as it comes. But fiscally, conservative has kind of been the way that I have always thought. I mean, as much as I hate Paul Ryan, the person, I think some of the things that he wanted to do, like financially, were the right moves that this country needed to make. And that used to be what the Republican Party was all about. So, again, I like Joe Biden. I may actually vote for him. He may be the second Democrat I actually vote for in my entire life. So we'll see what happens.
And so, after Joe is Bernie Sanders at plus 300.
He's batshit crazy.
At plus 300. Then comes the homie from Texas, Better at plus 600. I don't know much about son. Then comes Kamala Harris at plus 600. She's a black Hillary Clinton. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why she'll never win a national election. I mean, she has some good ideas, and I like her as a person. but she'll never win an election against Trump.
Then you have Mayor Pete, the mayor from I believe it's South Bend, Indiana.
Who I like a lot. I honestly, I listened to his speech the other day. I like him a lot. I like his ideas. I like, what he stands for. And I also like the fact that he's like the only motherfucker that I think can actually win the election that isn't 80 years old. Yeah. Like you got Biden and Trump running against each other. Like, we got to make sure that these two guys are still alive by the time they get, inaugurated as the next president or, gets a second term. I mean, I don't know why we want to put an 80-year-old in charge of the country. Listen, look at everybody out there. Look at your grandparents, right? The older they get, they start getting a little bit batshit crazy. On top of that, they don't give a fuck anymore. So they're just mother effing this, mother effing that. They don't really care anymore. Those are not the kind of people you want to put the long-term future of your country in the hands of.
I agree with you 100% on that one. Listen, but these are old people in their 70s, but it is what it is at this point. After Mayor Pete comes Elizabeth Warren. She's the first person to come in at plus 2,000. I don't really know much about her.
She just wants to give money to everybody.
I'm cool with that, but it's probably not going to work. Then you have Amy Klobuchar at plus 5,000. You know what I'm saying? Nope, I don't know too much about her either. I believe she's from Minnesota or something like that. And then you have Cory Booker at plus 5,000. Black people don't even like Cory Booker.
Hey, he's a New Jersey guy. He honestly did a really good job in Newark. He did a really good job bringing Newark back and all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of agree. He's who's he dating too? He's dating like some actress, right?
Yeah, I'm about to get real controversial. You brought it up, Benny. So apparently he's dating Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson. There you go. That's it. Yep.
I think it's BS.
Why is that?
I think he's gay.
You know what? You're not the first person who said that. I've heard that before. I've heard that from people before. I don't know.
I think he's gay. I think
his beard, basically. She's his beard is what you're saying?
I think she's his beard. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to have to worry about that because he'll be out the race before they get to South Carolina because the money will start drying up after they leave Iowa and New Hampshire. And after you spend that money in Iowa and New Hampshire, if you're not making no inroads, that money starts drying up. And if you're not going nowhere, people are going to stop donating. So there you go right there. We won't have to worry about him for too long. Then comes Mike Pence at plus 6,000. Son, you talking about move to Canada, son?
I don't even have words for that one. It's just straight up no, man. Just straight up no.
Son's a wild boy. You know what I'm saying? Like he won't have dinner with a woman that's not his wife or whatever, something like that. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean he was trying to knock Shorty down. You know what I'm saying? It just means that I don't know. Listen, I don't know, son. Mike Pence. I just know that's not that. I'd rather have Donald Trump in there than Mike Pence.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as much as I despise Trump and the things that he does, like I 100% agree. What I really hope happens, to be honest, I want Mayor Pete to end up as the vice president on somebody's ticket because I would pay money. I will literally go wherever that is, like wherever the two of them are going to have their vice presidential debate.
Yeah,
for Mayor Pete, I want to be there because that's going to be. Basically, it's gonna be like Dante's Inferno. It's gonna be like fire and brimstone. God may come down and sit there and moderate that for us, and answer a lot of questions that a lot of people in this country have, and that's gonna be
those two in the vice presidential debate. That's the yin and the yang right there. That's as opposite as you can get.
That's made for TV television right there. I mean, that's gonna be like they should put that on pay-per-view. It's gonna make a fortune. That'll be like another what was that big fight?
Mayweather McGregor.
That'd be another Mayweather Pacquiao right there. They're gonna break records.
Yeah, was the one that everybody paid for, that everybody waited years for, and it was absolutely horrible. I remember I watched Mayweather Pacquiao with some on-duty cops, like legit, like the cops were on duty.
I
don't want to say which jurisdiction it was.
Yeah, but you don't want to call them out.
Yeah, they were legit on duty cops. They came to the party where we was at. It was down in somebody's basement, a very nice neighborhood. They wasn't just like in the underground spot. It wasn't bottomless night. You know what I'm saying? They came in there. They had like each of them had like one beer, and they watched the fight with us. It was the wildest thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's me and my brother-in-law. We in that joint getting hammered, and I'm like, they could legit pull us over when we leave here.
They'd be like, "Yo, you're the one who gave me the beer. What are you talking about?"
Oh man, so there you go with that one right there. As far as yesterday, I started off with some day baseball. Was 0-3 in day baseball yesterday. So that should have been an omen not to hop into basketball at night. So what I decided to do last night, I wanted to get a plus money parlay going. So I went with the Rockets, the Washington Capitals, and the Golden State Warriors.
Ooh, all right. Well, I mean, you know what? If you're gonna lose, you might as well lose 2 out of 3. The Capitals.
Hard play yesterday, 1-5.
Yeah, like I'm not a big hockey guy. I know you're not a huge hockey guy either, but the hockey playoffs are pretty crazy. I mean, you had the team that everybody expected to win, the San Jose Sharks, right? They got knocked out in the first, or Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay Lightning got knocked out in the first round. So as a 1 losing to an 8, you had the defending champion Washington Capitals who got knocked out. You know, hockey's crazy, man. That's, you know, I don't know if I could get down with betting on hockey when you have, you know, top seeded teams getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that's crazy.
Benny, can you imagine? Like, I got anxiety anyway, but can you imagine rooting on a team, playing in a playoff game, and the score is 1-1 in the third period? I can't do it. I can't. It's like, that right there, my heart would explode, Benny.
It's tough because, I mean, like, again, I'm a big soccer fan. I've always watched a lot of soccer. I mean, I grew up in a somewhat Italian and Spanish neighborhood. So everybody around here plays soccer, whether you want to or not. You know, wherever you came from, if you come from Italy or you come from one of the Spanish countries, Colombia, down there in South America, they're all soccer fans. Like, everybody's grandfather who doesn't speak English, whether it's my Italian grandfather who didn't speak English or my best friend's Colombian grandfather who you met who doesn't speak English, they all played soccer in the old country. You know what I'm saying? So, like, soccer around here is huge. When the World Cup goes on around my neighborhood, you got people driving around with country flags from their cars, like honking horns and screaming and yelling and all that stuff. So, you know, soccer's kind of big around here. And honestly, that's the same way a lot of people feel about soccer because, like, most soccer games end 2-1, 1-0, 1-1, you know.
Yeah.
In the whole World Cup, there were probably, I don't know, 80 goals in the entire thing, and you had like 40.
Because it almost feels like when you get down, you can't come back. Then it's so exciting and riveting, and it's just a little bit too much for me to handle. So, before we get into this, how did your betting night go?
Horribly. I actually didn't have a lot of bets in there last night. My kid had a baseball game, right? So I was at my kid's baseball game. I came home at about 9 o'clock. So I caught some of the end of the Rockets game. I actually went out to the FanDuel Sportsbook, hung out there with one of my buddies for a little bit, had a couple beers, watched the end of the Rockets game, and then he got a booty call. He's a single guy. He's in his 30s. Nice. He got a booty call. So he was leaving, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be the degenerate that sits here and drinks by myself. So I was like, all right, I'm going to head home. We'll go back to the house, get a little bit of work done, and, you know, watch the Warriors game there. So I get home. It was probably like the first quarter of the Warriors game or something. Went out to get some food, came back. So basically it was about the third quarter, right? And I'm, you know, looking on the live lines and all that, and I see, I could get the Warriors -3 for +110. So they were down like 8 or 10 points at the time. So I was like, all right, let me hop in that for a little bit. So I hopped in that for a little bit. And then they went down like 13 or 14, and the money line went to Warriors like +105. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dude, it's a plus money line in the third quarter of a Warriors game. I got to hop on this, right? So I hopped into the Warriors at +105. My thought process when I did it was, at some point in this game, if the Clippers are still winning, I could probably get the Clippers at plus money. And if I got both teams at plus money, then one way or another, I can guarantee myself at least a little bit of a profit, right? So the problem was I didn't bet big enough at the +105 with the Warriors that I wanted to hedge it, right? So I just put $200. I had $100 on them -3 at plus money, and then I put $200 on them when they were plus money at like +105 on the money line, right? So then at one point in the game, it got down to like I think it was like a 6-point game or a 3-point game or so, and I was able to get the Clippers at +150. So I'm like, if I take the Clippers at +150, knowing that I already had the Warriors at +105, I'm like, basically if I put the same amount of money on both, no matter what, I win a little bit of money, right? But since it was only like $200, my win would have been like, if the Warriors won, I would have won like $20 on laying out 400. And if the Clippers won, I would have won like $100 from laying out 400. So I would have profited either way, but it wouldn't have been a sizable amount of money. So I was like, fuck it. I'm not even going to hedge. I'm just going to let it ride. The Warriors are going to win this game anyway. Well, the Warriors did not win that game anyway. So I wound up losing both of those bets. And it wasn't like a sizable amount of money, but being that like I was out most of the night at my kid's game and it was the only bet that I made, I got back and I was like, you know what, man? The only reason I made that bet is because I really wanted some action. But the more I think about it, to be honest with you, like anytime I can get the Warriors in less than a 10-point game at plus money in the third quarter, I'm going to do it.
See,
like, that's just a good bet to make.
I agree with you, Benny, but you know what? It's a sucker's bet. It really is. Because one thing I've learned, when the Warriors are plus money live in-game, they generally tend to lose the game. Another thing, if the Warriors are like, anytime you see the Warriors at like minus 170 or less, they generally tend to lose the game also. So it's almost like it's a real trick with betting the Warriors because they're always big favorites.
Right.
You don't know if they're going to cover the spread or not because the spreads are big. And when you're doing it live, you know, you always feel like they're going to come back. A lot of times in these games, they don't. It's like the books have the Warriors pegged perfectly. And obviously my pet peeve with the Warriors is the Warriors kill parlays. They're always that late game. They're always that last team. And you're like, okay, this is the third leg. This is the fourth.
Well, this year especially, I mean, even if you've been taking the points with them, like the Warriors were not covering at all earlier in the year. Yeah, were they dead last?
Spread, yep.
Well, I mean, like I have this argument with people all the time where I tell people like the Yankees are one of the worst bets ever to make in baseball. And people are like, oh, why did you say that? The Yankees are awesome. I'm like, dude, I'm the biggest Yankees fan there is. But the problem with a team like the Yankees, A, it's a big market team. B, it's one of like the teams that everybody across the country knows and likes. You never get value on the New York Yankees. Never. Like almost never. Like if you follow MLB Model and MLB Dream and all those guys over at the betting package, you will rarely ever see them have the Yankees as one of their like plus money bets on the day. And the reason why you don't see that is because they're never a good value. Like it's never, you know, they're never good money. It's always like minus 250, minus 240 when the real line should be like minus 180, minus 175. So you never get that good value to play them.
And like I told you the other night, because of the injuries the other night, I was able to catch them at about minus 115 or something like that. And I knew they were injured and beat up, but I'm like, you don't have this many opportunities. They did pull that game out in extra innings, but then I gave that all back yesterday, effing around with stupid-ass Golden State Warriors and then screwing around with day baseball, you know what I'm saying? So that's how it wound up for me yesterday. But when you look at that game last night, Benny, Lou Williams gets buckets. That's just it. Lou Williams gets buckets.
He was so good last night. And I'm going to be honest, like, we might as well get into this because I got a lot to say about why they lost this game last night as I was watching it, right? I kind of didn't give enough credit to this earlier in this thing, but it could be something that's going to hurt them in this playoff run, right? So you lose Boogie Cousins early in the series, okay? And I mean, Boogie was out for much of the year and all that stuff, so it's not like they haven't played without him.
They can win the championship without Boogie.
They can, but you saw last night what the big problem was, right? They have Kevin Looney and they have Andrew Bogut, who are the two guys that are basically playing the center spot for them right now. What killed them last night is, first off, they don't have anybody on their team that can stick with Lou Williams. Lou Williams did whatever he wanted, and we'll talk about him separately later. But one of the things that they were really getting exploited on was the pick and roll in the middle of the lane. So because they can't stop Lou Williams one-on-one, what they were doing, every time Lou Williams comes off the top of the key on the pick and roll, they're doubling the ball. Well, when you're doubling the ball, you're leaving Montrezl Harrell wide open in the middle of the lane right there with guys like KD and Draymond Green trying to come over and kind of block his shots over there because Montrezl Harrell basically being the center for that Clippers team is the guy that Andrew Bogut and Kevin Looney were guarding. So with them trying to double early in the game, they kept trying to double Lou Williams to get the ball out of his hands. And Montrezl Harrell was just getting the ball in the middle of the lane, taking one bounce, and then dunking on the entire team. Like, he finishes strong every time. And this is a problem that is going to happen for the Warriors in series going forward, too. When they defend the pick and roll, if they're going to double the ball to try to to try to stop whoever that ball handler is, in this series, it's Lou Williams. The next series, if they get on here, that's Chris Paul and James Harden. And then you're going to have Clint Capella in the middle there doing the same exact thing that we're seeing Montrezl Harrell do right here. So if you're somebody who's going to be playing DFS in the next round, or you're going to be playing some of these showdown slates in the next round, or even if you're just a sports bettor and you can get a good, over-under number on Clint Capella is going to have a humongous series against the Warriors when they play in the next round.
I'm not going to say if they play in the next round.
If the Warriors are going to get through this, all right? Like, again, the Clippers are doing what they're doing, but the Clippers basically played it's kind of like what we talked about with Orlando and Toronto after game one. They played their best game yesterday.
Yep.
Warriors shot like crap. So their best game versus one of the Warriors' worst games still only added up to like a couple-point victory. If the Warriors shoot well in that game yesterday, they win that game pretty easy. The fact that they couldn't knock down shots, which, again, I'm going to give a lot of credit to the Clippers' stingy defense. You know, you mentioned it. Like, they played amazing defense yesterday. They were all over the shooters. They kept Steph off of the three-point line. They made him go to the basket. And even though he can score going to the basket, I'd much rather have Steph going in against the trees shooting two-pointers than Steph standing outside wide open shooting three-pointers because, you know, those threes add up pretty quickly, and they're going to make points. If you make a little guy like that go to the basket, yeah, he's going to finish. He's going to draw fouls. He's going to kick it off to other guys for assists and stuff like that. But you can beat a team that's scoring 2 points at a time. You're not going to beat a team when Steph knocks down 3 or 4 threes in a row, or he knocks down 2 and sets up Clay for one, sets up KD for another. I mean, that's what I was waiting for when I bet on them yesterday. I was waiting for that Golden State 2-minute spurt of, you know, like a 15-2 run, which they do all the time. Yesterday, though, they weren't able to do that because they were keeping Steph off the three-point line. You know, KD, basically what they did yesterday is said, we're going to take out Steph, we're going to make it hard for everybody else, and we're going to leave Kevin Durant one-on-one against, you know, Danilo Gallinari and see if, you know, KD can kill him. And KD did kill him, but the other guys didn't do enough to help him out there.
But the thing with the Warriors is that it's always – you know, when the Warriors lose, you always know what the problem is. Number one, they're not focused. Number two, they're BSing with the referees. Number three, their depth becomes a problem. Number four, Steph Curry's a liability defensively. That's a huge problem for Golden State. The fact that Steph Curry's a liability defensively, and then like you said last night, Steve Kerr mentioned at the press conference, he was like, "Listen, that team scored 130 points against us. They scored 37 in the first quarter. When we don't play defense, and a team that has guys like Lou Will and Harold that can get hot, they can beat. That's when we lose. So these are the simple things. The problem with Houston is Houston's going to go out there and try to shoot 3 for 3 with them,
but they can." Like, I don't think that – I mean, if you – like, again, don't get me wrong. I think the Warriors are the best three-point shooting team in the league, but it's not like Houston's far behind. I mean, Houston, I think, actually even hit and took more three-pointers than the Warriors did this year.
They did.
So, you know, I mean, getting in a three-point contest with them is a game that they can actually win. Like, that's not – you know, that's not anything crazy. Like I said, the biggest problem that the Warriors are going to have, it's not on the – I mean, the Warriors still put up 121 points last night. So – Their problems are not really on the offensive end. Even on a bad shooting game, they put up 121 points. Most teams in the league would be lucky to put up $121 on a good shooting night. They did it on a bad shooting night. But if they can't stop anybody on the other end, I mean, again, this Clippers team is scrappy, but this is not the most talented team they're going to face going forward. So if they can't stop the Clippers, like I said, they're going to have a hell of a lot of trouble stopping the Houston Rockets in the next round.
And you look at what they'll have coming up. You got Chris Paul, you got James Harden, and then maybe further down the road you have Damian Lillard. And Damian Lillard and Steph Curry. That is they're going to have to put Clay. They're going to have to put Clay on him. Then they're not going to be able to play. If they get to that point, and Portland gets to that point, Steph Curry cannot guard Damian Lillard. That's going to be Klay Thompson's job. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams pair up defensively with their matchups because Steph Curry is a liability on defense. Period. No, there's no ands or buts about it.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
You know, I mean, depending on the matchup, you're able to kind of hide them, but there are some matchups that you really can't hide them in. Like this one, you're kind of able to hide them a little bit, but again, you look at the way the Rockets play offense. Basically, the Rockets' offense is get the ball into Chris Paul's hands or James Harden's hands, or if one of them is off the floor, Eric Gordon's hands, right?
Yep.
And then what do those guys do? They basically just dribble around off of screens until they get the one-on-one matchup that they want, and then they attack it. So what they're going to do is just keep running that pick and roll. And if the Warriors, like I said, if the Warriors try to do what they did last night to the Clippers and they try to double the ball right off the pick and roll, you're going to have huge games for Clint Capella in the middle doing the same thing that Montrezl Harrell didn't do anything crazy last night.
Well, he dunked basketball.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was getting the ball in the post and drop stepping on guys and you had to double him. You couldn't figure it out. He scored all his points last night by grabbing the ball probably at like the foul line and in, taking one dribble, and then going up and dunking it hard. It's the exact thing that Clint Capella does very well. So when those two teams play, you're going to see a microcosm of what you saw in this series, but you're going to see it. And again, no knock on Lou Williams, but arguably better ball handlers in Chris Paul and James Harden there, and arguably just as good, if not a better big guy in Clint Capella versus Montrezl Harrell.
Lou Williams to win the NBA Sixth Man of the Year is minus 9,000.
That line's off, man. You got to take that. There's value there. There's no way he's not going to win it. Lou Williams is the all-time leading scorer off the bench, and people need to understand, like, he enjoys coming off the bench. Like, it's not – Lou Williams could start for almost any team in the league. If you didn't watch that game last night, he was amazing last night. Like, Lou Williams can play for almost any team in the league and be one of their top 3 or 4 players. He enjoys coming off the bench. And honestly, he's the best player on that Clippers team. Like, he is the guy. Like, I love Gallo, and Gallo's a really nice piece and all that, but Lou Williams is what makes that team go.
No doubt about it. So they get that series. That series moves over to it becomes a 6-game set. Well, it goes to a game 6 back in Los Angeles. While the Houston Rockets, they wrapped up their series last night, so they get to move on their advance. Now Golden State's in a position where they're playing basketball still, and the Houston Rockets are waiting. This is going to be a particularly tough run for the Golden State Warriors. Let's see right quick. NBA playoffs, NBA. Check right quick. Do we have series prices yet? Yes.
Yes.
How about that? Ooh, Boston Celtics plus 240.
Too little. I said yesterday they're going to be like plus 300 or more. Plus 300 or more, I would have taken it. Plus 240 is not enough.
Toronto and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is plus 172. I don't know. Son, I would have felt like Boston would have been a bigger underdog than Philadelphia.
I think that this is probably where it should be. I think that the Toronto series is the one that I think is a little bit tougher to call. Like, again, I still think Milwaukee beats the Celtics here. You know, if you're taking a bet on the Celtics, to me, it's kind of more of a, you know, you're betting on a team that's more likely to lose. But if you were getting good enough odds, it would have put me on it. Like, if I was getting plus 300 or better, you know, 3-1 on it, I would have been able to take that chance. You know, plus 240, it's probably not enough. I don't know. I mean, I like Toronto, I think, to beat the Sixers. But that plus 170 what was it, 175, 172, something like that?
172.
Yeah, plus 172 is not bad because I honestly think that series is pretty much a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a coin flip between Toronto and the 76ers. So to get them at plus 172, I don't know. I'll have to think about this before tomorrow because that game's tomorrow night. But maybe you put a little something on there just to have to start your stake in this series.
Yeah.
And then hope that the games work out where, you know, maybe later on down the line you can put some money on Toronto at a plus number and kind of guarantee yourself a profit either way.
I agree. So, like I said, investigate that number and see how to figure that out before tomorrow night and those games get started. I don't know if you had seen this, Benny. This was kind of a big thing on social media yesterday. And I haven't been in this situation in about 4 or 5 years now. But I figured I'd ask you because you live it every day. Parents going to schools to drop children off.
Okay.
Now, most of the time, you know, like I was on the phone with my daughter's mother this morning. You know what I'm saying? It was, you know, okay, baby, I love you. Get out the car. Okay, bye, daddy. Okay, everybody love each other. All right, fine. You go inside the school. But every now and then, the parent has to go inside the school, whether to talk to a teacher, an administrator, or something like that.
Okay.
Well, schools are starting to tell parents, if you come in here to talk to us in the morning, if you're not just dropping off, no headscarves, no bonnets, no do-rags, no leggings, no pajamas. If you have to come inside the school to talk to one of the administrators, we don't want you in booty shorts. We don't want you in leggings. We don't want you with your hair tied up. We want you to come in here professionally. And I'm like, man, I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I'm saying?
Last I checked, I mean, my kids go to public school, right? This is a public school we're talking about?
The one school in particular was a public school in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Houston, Texas, so that explains a lot of No, I mean, honestly, like most of the time, and again, now that I work basically from home, sitting at my computer, most of the times I'm dropping my kids off from the school in like a T-shirt and sweatpants. Or if it's cold outside, I got sweatpants, my N1 sneakers on that I just grab as I'm walking out the door, my Air Force Ones or something, and like a jacket over the top of a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I am definitely not the guy that's going in there professional. Now, listen, I always take I wear a hat almost all the time. Like, this isn't just for the show. you've known me long enough to know that I pretty much wear hats all the time. This is kind of my uniform right here. So I mean, I'm respectful. Like, I take my hat off when I walk in the building. Like, you know, again, that's just something I do. I do that in almost every building I walk in. That's, you know, something like a professional setting. So I mean, I can understand that part of it. I can understand like the hat or the do-rag part of it. You know, the headscarf. Like, if that's your religion and you got to go in there, then you got a problem.
Like, that's where you get into trouble, because that's a religion. If that's a religious thing, then you can't say that. But if your wife wakes up and she got her hair wrapped up one morning and she got to go into school, some of these schools are going to send her away. And I'm like, you got to be careful, because let me tell you, the male parent is always going to be a little bit more, oh, okay, whatever. Let me just do this. The female parent might cuss your ass out.
No, you definitely right about that. Like, if something like that happens, I'm usually just like, you know what, whatever, man. I'll call tomorrow, or you know, I'll throw on a button-down shirt tomorrow when I drop them off. Not a big deal. Like, I'm not gonna this is not gonna ruin my day. If that shit happened to my wife, dude, I wouldn't be able to do the show because my phone would be blowing up. With my wife being like, do you know what they did to me at the school today? I went over there right now. I had to talk to his teacher. I took a half day from work. I did this. I did that. Like, believe me, I would get it so bad that I'd be bitching them out the next day.
Exactly.
Like,
you would be like,
oh, you guys got to let this lady in because, honestly, you're killing my life right now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that would definitely be a problem in my house. And if my wife watches this show today, babe, I'm sorry. I love you. I will sleep on the couch. It's all good. But you know, it is what it is, and she knows I'm right.
Your son, Benny, is so wild because, like, you know, my son get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? You know, the phone will ring and I'd be like, oh God, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and I'm talking about, you would think I was in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So when I get off the phone, I call him, I'm like, Jaden, listen, son, I don't care what you do. Just don't have her call me. You know what I'm saying? As long as she's not calling me, everything is good. But when she calls me, then you understand that what you're doing is my fault. You know what I'm saying?
I was just gonna say that. Do you always get the, like, you know, when your kid makes the honor roll, it's like, oh, look at my baby, he's so good. But when your kid gets called to the principal's office, it's like, do you know what your son did today? I'm like, oh, that was my son, right? But when he made the honor roll, he was your kid. You know, when he hit the game-winning shot, it was, oh, my baby, my baby. But then when he gets in trouble, it's, do you know what your son did? I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever.
You know what I'm saying? It's funny because it's both of them. And you know what I'm saying? You know, my daughter's mother, she'll call, my daughter be in the background crying, and I'm like, what's going on? And her mother be like, she's coming to live with you. She's coming to live with you. And my daughter's in the background like, I don't want to live with daddy. So yeah, I don't know how this thing is going to play out, but it's some different school jurisdictions, and a lot of these schools, all public schools, are more or less putting in a parental dress code, which I'm like, oh boy, that's wild, because you're going to run into the wrong one. Put it like that. You're going to catch the wrong one. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I mean, it's another one of the problems I have with just everybody overreaching right now. You know, it's like, just, you know, people need to just live your life and stop being jerks. Stop trying to put rules on other people. Like, you know, is it really that big? Like, again, I'm not going to walk into my son's school with like a pot leaf shirt on and a hat that says, fuck you. You know, like, I'll be respectful enough not to do that. But if I'm running around in the morning, I mean, I got 3 kids. And basically one of them gets on a bus to go to one school. The baby is in the daycare at a different school. And then my other son one of my kids goes to the local school. The other one goes where he has to get on a bus because, you know, the age difference is the fact where I basically have 3 kids in 3 different schools right now. So my mornings between 7:30 and 8:30 before I come here and do the show with you, I'm basically running around for that entire hour after spending an hour getting all 3 of those bastards to brush their teeth and change their underwear and put on clean clothes and packing their lunch and all that stuff. So, you know, I don't have time to make myself look pretty in the morning. Not that I even wanted to if I did, but, you know, I don't have that kind of time. And again, I have a wife who's here too. If you're a single parent and you got a couple kids and you're running around doing that stuff, the last thing in the world I would want is to walk into my kid's school and have them be like, oh no, you're not dressed nice enough to come in here. I'm going to be like, you're a freaking public school teacher. Shut the hell up and let me in the building so I can do
Stop playing with me so I can go. Either I got to pay the lunch or whatever the case may be. Come on, let's not take it that far. The big draft special goes down tonight, so you can catch the live stream right here at elitefantasy.com. I think I am going to be on between 9:15 tonight and 9:15 p.m. Eastern time and 10 p.m. Eastern time is when I'll be joining Jeff and Russell Clay on the stream. Ted Schuster, and I forgot my other man name that'll be involved also by that point. So At that time of night. By that time, I should have the banner up by then. You know what I'm saying? After I get a team of contractors to come in here and help me put.
You should have bought the steel reserves, man. You're gonna need some beers to bribe those contractors to get the job done on time, man.
When I went and I saw the landlord and I told him about the keys, I came inside and I saw the keys and I picked the keys up, and the first thing I said was, when I'm done with Benny and I get this posted, I'm going to roll me a joint.
It seems like you had that kind of morning, so you deserve it.
I'm going to roll me a joint. You know what I'm saying? Because I laid in here all morning and everything was fine, and then it just started to unravel after that. Big piece of baseball news right quick, Benny. Vlad Jr. will make his debut tomorrow. I've been hearing about Vlad Jr. for like 2 or 3 years now. You know what I'm saying? And it has finally come to the day when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is coming up. You have a quick scouting report on his game?
I mean, from everything you see and everything you hear, the kid's like a can't miss prospect. You know, I mean, some people say he's going to be a better hitter than his dad, which is pretty high praise because I was a big fan of his dad, and his dad used to swing. Dude, the older Vlad, the original Vlad, the original, he used to hit balls that were on the ground, that were 4 feet above his head, that were 2 feet outside when they were trying to intentionally walk him. I mean, there is not a pitch that was invented that guy couldn't hit. So
he used to hit one-arm home runs.
Yeah, he was amazing, dude. And he had a cannon. Like, oh man, like Vlad the dad was awesome. And like they said, people were saying that his son is going to be as good, if not better. You know, can't miss kind of top of the line prospect. And for all those people who are wondering, well, if he's that good, why wasn't he up at the beginning of the year? Because if you bring him up at the beginning of the year, if you bring him up at the beginning of the year, then, you know, you lose eligibility and you got to pay him more money, and, you know, he'll be a free agent earlier and you let him leave. So it has nothing to do with talent why he wasn't up here. This guy is going to get put in, maybe not the first couple games, but he's eventually going to be a top of the order by mid-season at the latest. He'll be a top of the order kind of guy. And if somebody was dumb enough, because everybody drafted him in the season-long drafts, if somebody was dumb enough to drop him because he wasn't up there in the lineup, or if he just got added to your player pool right now, this is a guy you should be putting a big bid on, or, you know, going and picking up right now.
So NFL draft coming up tonight. Right now, the odds for number 1 pick, Kyler Murray, is minus 400. That's been dropping and dropping and dropping. Nick Bosa is plus 350. I don't know. You know what, Benny? For the first time, I'm really like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this first pick.
I got to be honest. This is one of the drafts where normally you look at the draft and at least the first 10 picks or so, like maybe not exactly, but the names are kind of in that list. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's definitely going to be this guy, and this guy. You know, maybe the quarterback goes first, maybe he goes third, but these are the 2 other guys that are going to go around him, and these are the other 5 or 6 guys. I honestly have no idea. Here's what I know about the draft this year, to be honest with you. If Kyle Murray doesn't go first, I'm assuming Arizona's trading that pick.
Yep.
Like, that's the way I look at it. And if they trade that pick, my guess is that whoever gets that pick is not coming up to take Murray. They're probably coming up to take either Quinnen Williams or Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, depending on that means that they drop back. Like, my Jets are sitting at 3 right now. I'm begging the Jets to trade that pick because I would rather see them drop down a little bit, because to me, there's a lot of guys that are, like, very good prospects, but I don't feel like there's no superstar in this draft, in my opinion. Like, there's no Saquon Barkley offensive player that's going to make that big of a difference. And I don't know, like, Bosa is probably the best, and Williams is the other one that people are talking about that could make, like, a big-time impact as a rookie defensive player. But after that, you have a whole bunch of guys that are, like, really good. You know what I mean? But maybe not, like, superstars. So you got a bunch of edge rushers that people are talking about. You got a couple offensive linemen. I mean, there are 2 tight ends that people are projecting in, like, the top 15 of this draft. And that says something to me, because normally tight end is not a position that you're drafting in the top part of the first round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really don't know how this draft is going to go. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a bunch of trades. I wouldn't be shocked if there were guys sitting on the board that we wouldn't have expected to still be on the board. I'm not going to be shocked when guys get drafted and I'm like, that seems like a little earlier than, you know, a lot of people are projecting. I feel like there's going to be a lot of action in this draft, so that could be fun.
And then it'll definitely be fun. We'll be coming in right here tonight, part Elite Fantasy. So make sure you check us out on Twitter. You can follow me, you can follow Jeff, whoever the case may be, and get that information rocking and rolling. My Dallas Cowboys, and I have a pick tonight. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys have already selected their pick. their pick was Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was better than any wide receiver in this draft, so I'm satisfied with Dallas not having the first-round pick this year. The thing about it is you got to pay Amari Cooper, not what you pay these kids right here. Your New York Jets, Josh Allen is plus 200. Quentin Williams is plus 210. Ed Oliver is plus 420. Look at that, 420.
Now, see, here's my thing. Is the way that that's said is who is the Jets going to take with the number 3 pick, or is it who's the Jets' first pick going to be?
First player drafted by the Jets.
Yeah, so see, this is why I think, again, 420, I think it's kind of telling me I should put money on it at that point.
Right?
but I really do think the Jets are going to trade back. And I've actually seen Ed Oliver being a guy who they've linked with the Jets because they say he's a good fit for their system there. So I think taking a guy like that and expecting the Jets to trade back to somebody at, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7, 8, like trade back to somebody there if somebody wants to move up to grab one of those quarterbacks is not a horrible bet. Now, let me ask you, let's switch roles here for a second. You be the analyst. Let me be the host for a minute because I got a couple questions that I wanted to kind of bounce off of you, all right?
Uh-huh.
So one of them is, what is up with all this talk about, Daniel Jones right now? Like, they're talking about him going ahead of Haskins. They're talking about, like, the Redskins and the Giants kind of, like, trying to move up in the draft and give up some other picks. Like, these are the names that I'm seeing linked to the Jets right now. It's like the Redskins trading up to leapfrog, to get up there ahead of the Giants to draft this kid Jones, who I didn't even think was – I thought he was, like, behind Haskins by a mile.
Yeah.
And, like, what is going on with all this quarterback?
Listen, I think a lot of smoke screens going on right now. One thing about the kid is he's had leading up to the draft, his measurable stand up. A lot of people like him. He definitely is a pro style quarterback that can get the job done. Listen, I'm not going to. I can't. The way I draft the prospects, especially somebody that watches a lot of college football, I'm not going to. The Duke quarterback is not a can't miss prospect because the Duke quarterback. Who have you beat? You know what I'm saying? Like, what have you gone into Tallahassee? Well, Tallahassee is trash now. But have you gone into someplace and gotten a big-time W? And I don't see where the Duke quarterback has that. But he is being talked up right now. I think with D.C. and some other these teams that need a quarterback talking about Daniel Jones, I think it's a smokescreen. I think the New York Giants are in love with Daniel Jones, right? Because Daniel Jones is like an Eli Manning type. It's almost like breaking up with your girlfriend and going to get a girl that's just like her. You know what I'm saying? So that's the New York Giants situation with Daniel Jones.
They're pulling a Reggie Bush.
Yeah, they're pulling a Reggie Bush. We got to get the next best thing since we're losing our sweetheart. You know what I'm saying? In a couple of years, let's go get the next best thing. But I would be very particular with the Daniel Jones thing. But in the year with down quarterback play, cats like Daniel Jones can happen. I remember Jake Locker. Who was it? It was Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, and Cam Newton. And that was the big question about 5-6 years ago. Who is going to be going to be the best quarterback to come out this draft? Who is going to be? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, looking back on that was so easily Cam Newton. Easily.
Yeah, so this is my problem that I always have, right? Because quarterback is such a high-end position, teams overdraft, and teams will go up and trade more than they probably should to get quarterbacks. But my problem is, like, when guys come out, like, every year there may be one, maybe two guys that can really change a franchise. But yet there are teams that are, like, falling over themselves trying to trade up to get the third or fourth best quarterback in any class. Like, here's the thing. When you get – right now, I mean, just take New Jersey as an example, right? There are over 400 high schools in New Jersey. There are, like, 8 colleges in New Jersey, only one of them being a Division I college. So you have 400 quarterbacks in high school in New Jersey. You have basically one Division I offer that one of those 400 kids can get. You have maybe 5 or 6 other Division II offers that some of those guys can get. And the other 395 of those quarterbacks are never going to be college players, right? Mm-hmm. So now you step up to the next level. There's 350-something Division I schools. That doesn't mean there's going to be 350 future NFL quarterbacks. Of those 350, it's the same thing. There's one, maybe two. Yet we're talking about teams trading, like, important draft capital, second, third round picks, starters at other positions that they could be taking to go up and take, like, the third or fourth best quarterback in a class. It doesn't make sense to me, but it happens every year.
Jones' upside is Matthew Stafford.
All right, now again,
It's not bad.
Matthew Stafford that's good. Like if Matthew Stafford's your upside, that's good. But if that's your ceiling, what's your again, I mean Achilles Smith's ceiling was Randall Cunningham. How the fuck did that turn out? You know what I mean? Like
Didn't work.
there's a big difference between what your ceiling is and what your probable outcome is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your Achilles Smith basement was Achilles Smith. Yeah.
Well, like Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf's another one. Like Ryan Leaf's upside was, Ryan Leaf's upside was what Peyton Manning became. But the difference between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning's downside was Eli Manning.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf's downside is coaching high school football in California somewhere. You know what I'm saying? That's a wide difference between what they're likely to be and what they're probably going to become.
What's the next one? What's the next question? What you got for me?
Right. So that's the first one. The second one that I wanted to ask you is, are skill position players being undervalued? Because again, we're looking at this draft, right? The over-under on defensive linemen taken is in the double digits. The over-under on offensive linemen taken is like 5 or 6. The over-under on running backs taken is 0.5. Most people are saying you're probably going to get maybe 2 or 3 of these wide receivers in the first round. But most likely, I think the over-under on the wide receivers is like 3.5. So has the draft basically just become everybody looking for defensive linemen, linebackers that can rush the passer and cover, and then offensive linemen to protect the quarterback? Because that seems to be what
I think that's where it's at this year. I think that those are the positions that's where the talent is at. You know what I'm saying? I don't see there is no super duper talented skill position players in this draft.
Right.
Myself personally, and obviously I premise this by saying that I could be biased, but I think the best skill position player in this draft is Marquise Brown. It's Hollywood Brown. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then when I look at players in general, I'm looking at look at their background. This is Antonio Brown's nephew. Antonio Brown's father was like the greatest wide receiver in Arena League football history. Mm-hmm. So he knows how to play the position. You feel what I'm saying? So mm-hmm. I think Marquise Brown is the best skill position player in this draft. The Metcalf kid is, I think he, like I said, plays like he looks like Tarzan, may play like Jane. You know what I'm saying?
Or does. Like that's the thing. Is like I feel like people were saying, everybody looks at his measurables and all that. So I mean, again, I'm a Jets fan. We drafted Vernon Golston with the number 4 overall pick because he looked really good lifting weights and running in shorts and with his shirt off standing up there. But there's a lot more to football than looking like a big-time athlete. You also got to be able to play the game, which is one thing that I always gave the Patriots a lot of respect for is, the Patriots may not have a whole bunch of guys in their team that, are off the charts on their spark scores, but they have guys who know how to play the game, know what their role is, and are willing to, do their role and sacrifice for the greater good. So when you start looking at a guy like Metcalf, I mean, yeah, he's fast, he's big, he's strong, he's all that, but when you start looking at his game tape, does his game tape make him the number 1 wide receiver in his class, or are there other guys that are better, especially at a position? Wide receiver is a position, Corey, and you know this. It's notorious that it takes the guys a couple years to figure it out, right? Yep. Like running back, you can walk in right away. Basically, from the time you play Pop Warner football to the time you get into the NFL, a lot of running back is the same. It's just a matter of if you're fast enough to hit that hole before it comes. But
exactly.
the hole you learn in Pee Wee is the same hole that you learn in the NFL. It's just a matter of, are you big enough, strong enough, and fast enough to get to that hole in the right time and bust through to the second level. That's the only difference between Pee Wee football and NFL for a running back. But for a wide receiver, it does come down, especially at this level, to do you know how to run routes? Do you know how to set up a cornerback? Do you know how to wait till the last minute to get your head around and still be able to catch the ball? Those are things that seem to be learned. That's why we don't see a lot of wide receivers come in as rookies and kind of dominate. Wide receivers start to really emerge year 2, year 3 is when they kind of blossom into the player that they become.
Exactly. Forward. I think a lot of that is coaching too. You can just look at it. Take the Pittsburgh Steelers. They bring a wide receiver in, the wide receiver blows up all the time. All the time. New England Patriots, they go get a wide receiver, he flames out all the time. It's just about coaching and what your staff can do with these players, and that's why wide receiver is such a risk, especially when you draft them in the first round like this. They got to be a can't miss dude. I'm always wary of these workout warriors. these combine warriors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always wary of them because they never really seem to pan out. Remember John Ross?
Yep. Oh, I mean, again, there's example after example after example that dates all the way back. It's like, I don't want to minimize things like a spark score because, there's also guys like George Kittle. George Kittle was off the charts on his spark score, and George Kittle is arguably now, I mean, not even arguably.
Best tight end in the league.
I was just going to say he's a top 3 tight end. You could even argue he was the best tight end by the end of last season if you want to, if you want to really try to make that argument. He was that good. So there is something to it. But to me, I mean, it still comes back to I want a guy who scores well in all the combine things, but I could also see on tape that he's a football player. Like to me, if I'm deciding between 2 guys that are close and one guy's measurables were bigger than the other and both of them had, similar good production throughout their college career, that's where I'll use the spark score. But if you're telling me this guy who, was a fringe player on his college team, but he had amazing spark scores, or this guy who was, Buckus Award finalist and, had 100-something tackles and played, was a 4-year starter and, moved from outside linebacker to inside linebacker or vice versa or whatever, that's the guy I'd rather have on my team.
I want to see what you did on the tape. What did you do in the big games, especially when it comes to quarterbacks? What did you do? You know what I'm saying? Sam Darnold, he was terrible in the big game, but I think Sam Darnold is going to be a outstanding quarterback for the New York Jets. If I'm a Jet fan, I feel real good about what the situation is right now. So I'm about to get a little bit more controversial because I had this conversation with a buddy of mine, and I was like, I can't really talk about this. So somebody was asking me, this was a couple of months ago, did I think that the Giants would draft Dwayne Haskins? And I was like, I don't think the Giants are going to draft Dwayne Haskins. And he was like, well, that's probably like outside of Murray, that's probably going to be the best quarterback in the draft. Haskins this, Haskins that. And I didn't think the Giants would draft a black quarterback. I really just didn't feel like the Giants would draft a black quarterback. And the thing about it is, can you name a time when the New York Giants, obviously Eli Manning been there for years now, and purposely played a black quarterback? Maybe Geno Smith that 1 week when McAdoo was sick of Eli Manning and Eli Manning being a bum, they played Geno Smith and the whole town exploded. Right. But other than that, I can't remember a black quarterback playing for the New York Giants.
No, I'm thinking. I mean, again, Eli's been there a while, but then I'm thinking back. You had like Hostetler, you had Phil Simms, like
Kurt Warner.
No, yeah, Kurt Warner. I forgot about that in between before Eli came in there. No, man, I really can't.
It's going to be interesting to see if they make that move. I think DC comes up and gets Haskins.
Well, again, I mean, isn't this the talk, though? Like, the talk is that they would rather have the kid Daniel Jones, and by all accounts – now, again, I'm not a huge college football guy. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've sat down like Russell has and watched, hours and hours of college football game film to break this all down. I go by the experts, by the people who I trust, the people who I know are doing the work. Like, guys like Vance, guys like Russell who are sitting down, guys like Evan Silva that are sitting down and actually doing this work. I mean, I'm worried about basketball and baseball and DFS. I'm not worried about NFL draft. It's not my forte. You know what I mean? That's not where I make my money. Exactly. So I listen to the guys who I believe are the smart guys in the industry, and everyone is saying that Haskins is the better quarterback. So if that's the case, maybe what you're saying does have some merit, because why are the Giants looking at Daniel Jones then?
I think a lot of it has to do with Daniel Jones and Daniel Jones's similarities to Eli Manning.
No, I think I know the reason, right? We got to go see. Basically, I'll tell you this. If you're a gambling man and you want to make money right now, what you do is go sign up for $1.99 to the Mike Francesa podcast today, right? Because I'm sure whoever he talks about is who Gettleman is going to draft in the first round. So for $1.99, you could get the inside information and then go make a whole bunch of money on a plus money bet. Because I know that like Haskins is supposed to be the number 2 quarterback coming off the board, according to all the odds at all these sports books and everything. So if Jones comes off the board before him, you could probably make some good money on that. I would wonder what Jones – you might even be able to find it now. I wonder what Jones's number is to be the second quarterback off the board.
The only thing I'm seeing right now on Jones is –
But you did the Jets bet before with who did the Jets draft? Did they have one for the Giants too?
Yeah, that's
I'm sure Haskins is probably still listed as the favorite, but I really think again, unless this
Haskins to be drafted by the Giants is that magic number plus 420. Daniel Jones is plus 550.
I see that's not as big. Like Haskins was a minus number earlier in the week to be drafted by the Giants. So the fact that he went from minus like 150 up to plus 420 says a lot right there.
This is first quarterback. Do they have second? Yeah, second by position. This is right, second by position. Second quarterback drafted. Haskins is minus 175. Locke is plus 320. Jones is plus 440.
See, again, this is what I was saying is like some people don't even have Jones listed as the third best quarterback. And, that's basically what the sites are saying too. The other kid, Locke's the kid from Duke, right?
No, Jones is the kid from Duke.
Oh,
Locke
Jones
is
is
from
the kid
Missouri. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about this. Like, the only way, if you really don't believe that the Giants are going to take Haskins, right, then you have to be looking at one of the other two guys. Or you know what? Maybe the Giants just don't even take a quarterback.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
Well, they do have the second first-round pick, too, at like 16 or 17, one from the Browns. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they wait and see which one of those guys falls. But, again, that goes back to what I just said. Do you really want – like, you have legit guys that you can plug in and start at cornerback, at D-end, at D-line, at O-line right now that'll be available at 16 or 17 in this draft. That may even be the number one or number two guys at their position in this draft. Do you really want to wait till 17 and take the, fourth best quarterback in this draft, which will probably be end up with?
The Eagles have Carson Wentz. The Cowboys have Dak Prescott. DC is going to probably have somebody tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You got Eli Manning. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, Daniel Snyder basically said he's taking over the first round of this draft. So everybody's like, he's going to pull another RG3 to get his quarterback like he did a couple years ago. Some people were saying that the Jets are the big beneficiary of that, which I would love because Daniel Snyder's the kind of guy that'll just be like, here's my draft picks for the next 10 years for your pick right now. So, I mean, if the Jets walk away with like, a 1, a 2, if they drop down from their 1 to somebody else's 1 and pick up like a 2 this year and a 2 next year, which is basically what they did last year to go get Sam Darnold, I'd be happy with that. I'd be like, that's fine by me because we have so many holes to fill. That would be awesome.
I think DC is going to try to get ahead of the Giants to make the play for Haskins.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not rule out DC going all the way up to 1 and getting Murray. Like I think they would even do that.
I don't think that's crazy because I really don't think Arizona wants him. I think Arizona's doing it to just drum up the interest and to try to get somebody to trade up and get other people to move around. I really don't and I know everyone's like, oh, he's perfect for Cliff Kingsbury's system and all that stuff, but like
perfect for Cliff Kingsbury's system. Cliff Kingsbury ain't never done nothing.
But here's my other thing is like if he's gonna run like a wide open kind of spread offense, then any quarterback is perfect for that system.
There you go.
I mean, it's going to be – I mean, look at the guys who quarterback for him in college. Like, basically running in that system. If he runs the same system he ran in college, you're going to be slinging the ball all over the place. You're going to throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards anyway and probably 20, 25 touchdowns, even as a rookie. Now, you may have 15 to 20 interceptions to go along with it because of the, the up-tempo pace and how much they throw the ball. But I don't see any quarterback not being a good fit for a system that's quarterback heavy, at least for fantasy,
Wide open. Here's my thing with the Haskins thing. If I'm Haskins people, all I do, I put on the tape against Michigan from this past year,
mm-hmm.
and how I destroyed Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
That's an NFL defense. That Michigan defense was an NFL defense, and I bust their ass.
3 guys on that Michigan defense are projected to go in the first round. 2 of them in the top 10 picks. That shows you how good that defense he tore up is.
Haskins put 40 on him, and I'm like, I'm not even tripping off anything else. You know what I'm saying? And that's it right there. Benny, I guess we give out our big pieces of chicken and get ready to get on out of here. Are we unanimous on Lou Will?
Oh, without a doubt. That's not even a question. I'll tell you what. Just that one stretch in the fourth quarter he had. I think the Warriors cut it to like 3. I think was the closest that they got. He came down and he hit a shot coming. Yeah, he had the shot coming off, and then he had the move down low on the post where he went up over Durant right there, and then he came back and hit a fall away from like right around like the foul line, the elbow extended area right there. He hit a fall away with Iguodala right up in his face, where I was sitting there and saying like, if I'm a coach right now and I'm showing my team what they did wrong on that play, they didn't do a damn thing wrong. That was just a shot maker making shots. You know, like he got to that point at the end of that game where he was just making shots. And honestly, the one play he had, I don't know if you saw the highlights last night, but he came off the screen, he came down, he went behind his back, did like a little hesitation dribble, and then crossed, went to the hole, and Bogut came up. And as he jumped, and it was a perfect point guard play because he jumped, he got Bogut off his feet, and as soon as Bogut went off his feet, he dumped it off to Montrezl Harrell, cutting down the middle for a monster jam. There were like 4 plays in a row right there where it went from like a 3-point game to a 10-point game, and it was all Lou Williams. So big piece of chicken for Lou Williams. Hell of a game he played yesterday. I don't think they're going to wind up winning this series, but
Lou Williams put his on the league. Lou Williams buckets. Oh, one last thing I will say right quick before we get out of here. Steve Kerr. The Knicks basically hired Steve Kerr about, 5-6 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
If Steve Kerr would have took that Knick job, he'd be sitting up there doing play-by-play, as a broadcaster for TNT.
I got to be honest.
It's amazing how your luck can change. He takes that Knick job. He's not coaching right now. And now he's coaching the Warriors, and he's looked upon as the best coach in the NBA with 3 championships.
No, what? I got to be honest with you. I don't think he's a good coach at all. Like, again, you need talent. You need talent to win. We'll put it this way. You look at this series, right? Who's done a better job coaching in the series? Doc Rivers or Steve Kerr? It's not even close. Like, it's not even a question. It's not even close. I would go so far as to say I'm not sure the Warriors ever have the coaching advantage in any one of the games that they're going to play from now until the end of the series. I just really don't think Steve Kerr was a former player. Steve Kerr might be a really good players coach to get the guys all get along with him, but I don't think he's making any adjustments in the game, and I don't think he's making the smart adjustments. Like I said yesterday, that whole Montrezl Harrell pick and roll thing and how they decided to defend it, you got to figure something out at this point. It's game 6 in the series, and you still have, or it's going to be game 6 in the series, and you still haven't figured out how to stop literally the only way they score. The only way the Clippers score is Lou Williams running the pick and roll with Harrell, and either Lou Williams doing his thing or kicking it to Harrell, cutting down the middle to do his thing. It's the only way they score.
Going to be interesting to see how the rest of these NBA playoffs play out. Don't forget to join us live tonight, the live stream of the broadcast of the NFL Draft. For my main man, Benny Ricciardi, I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy exec, the opening line. We are out.